I see so much bad branding on Etsy and I really want that to change. What I think a lot of people don't understand is that you don't need to be a marketing expert or a graphic designer to create an amazing Etsy brand. All you really need is a little bit of time and dedication. That's all. And I'm really excited about today's video. In this free course, we're going to go through step by step what you need to do to create a standout Etsy brand, one that you can be really proud of. And as we go through these steps, we're actually going to build a brand together so you can see what it looks like in action. So whether you're just starting out on Etsy or you already have a shop and you're looking to reshuffle things, then this course is for you. Something else is that I'll also be referring to my Etsy branding workbook throughout this course. Now, this is a workbook that I've designed specifically for Etsy sellers like you and I. And the idea is that you can use this workbook to guide you through the entire brand development process. It's something I wish I had when I first started on Etsy, so that's why I've created it, essentially to make your life a little bit easier. Now, this guide isn't mandatory for this course to be effective and useful for you. You can do it without as well, but you'll see that it'll take you on an interactive branding journey where you'll learn important concepts around branding, as well as have the chance to develop your very own Etsy brand as you go through the different steps. So if this is something you're interested in, there's a link down below. And let's start with an all-important question. What on earth is branding? Well, branding is basically giving your business a personality so that it makes it recognizable and appealing to a certain group of people. Now think of it this way. You have an online shop, right? Your Etsy shop. And you want people to come and buy your products. But in order to entice them to come to your store and to buy your products, you're going to have to influence them. And to influence those buying decisions, you need a really strong brand. But why is branding important, especially on Etsy? You know, a lot of people just assume that buyers are going to see a nice looking listing and then just click on buy now from there and never actually see your shop. While that is how some buyers shop, I guess, the majority definitely don't. Think about it. There are so many sellers on Etsy nowadays and there's just millions of listings. You've got to do something to stand out from that crowded market. And that's where an amazingly strong brand comes into play. And having a really well thought out brand can also have a lot of other additional benefits for you and your Etsy shop. These days, buying online can be a bit weird and people can have trust issues. I know I do sometimes. And having a really strong, trustworthy brand can actually help increase potential customers' trust in you. You can also actually use your brand to improve or increase the perceived value of your products, so that in the end, you ultimately don't need to always be fighting and battling for the lowest prices. You could let your brand shine through and actually increase the perceived value of what you're selling. And it can also increase customer loyalty. Even on Etsy, what you'll find is that a lot of customers will actually remain loyal to certain brands for certain products and keep coming back in the future. So in other words, having a strong brand on Etsy is important, folks. Don't ignore it. But what is branding really when it comes to Etsy? When I speak to a lot of my clients and ask them this question, I usually get a very similar response from everyone. And that is that it's the store logo, the shop banner, and usually the brand name, right? That's your branding. Well, while they're not wrong, I think this is only part of branding and it doesn't actually paint the whole picture. In reality, what you'll actually find is that beyond the surface of this iceberg is an entire brand strategy that helps to shape what your shop name, your logo, and your banner actually become. There's so much more to a brand, to everything that shows up on the surface. And I think that gets forgotten a lot of the times. You see, great brands on and off Etsy, they always go a step further. On top of those kind of visual graphics, they'll start delving into understanding who their target audience is. and then building a brand strategy around them. So making sure that it actually appeals to that specific customer segment. Let's look at this example. We've got two different logos here. Let's say that we are creating a logo for a children's puzzle store on Etsy, right? So children, puzzles, games. Which of these two logos do you think would better be suited to this brand? Probably the left one, right? And why? Well, the logo itself, the elements of that logo, we're looking at the color, the fonts, the style of it, probably align better with that customer, that target customer, than the right one would. Someone that's looking for children's puzzles would probably resonate more with this more stylish logo on the left-hand side. And to be able to come up with this, we need to create a brand strategy. We need to understand what's actually going to go into our logo, into our name, into our banner, in order to create a brand that will be both effective and also help you see success on Etsy. So that's why in today's branding course, yes, we are going to be looking at visual branding. So that's our logo, our banner, all sorts of other different visual elements. But that's only a small segment of branding and what we're going to be looking at. That's actually only step 3 in this process. Before that, we need to have a look at what's called brand positioning. So understanding where we actually sit within this wider Etsy market. We also need to determine what our core identity is. What drives us? What mission do we have? What values do we believe in? And then we can take that information to then start sculpting and crafting our visual identity and our verbal identity. So how do we also sound to people that we're speaking to? What is our brand messaging like? These 4 pillars are what make up my Etsy branding strategy framework. And these are the different pillars that we're going to go through step by step now. And we're going to start off with our brand positioning. What is this, you might ask? Well, it's basically understanding where you sit within your market or your niche. It's you taking a step back and doing a little bit of a reflection exercise to understand how you could position yourself within this specific market or niche that you're trying to get into on Etsy. And there's 2 main things that you need to focus on as part of this. And that is firstly to get a really good understanding of your target audience. And then secondly is to get a really good understanding of your competitors. So what does the competitive landscape look like out there? Let's start with our target audience. I think this is potentially the most important thing that you could possibly do when it comes to creating a brand. And that is to understand who your target audience actually is. I see this mistake being made so often, time and time again on Etsy. And that is that people will come to me with a new shop idea, but haven't actually considered who they want to market this to or who's actually going to be interested in buying these products. And if you're listening to this and thinking, well, I'm just going to target everyone, it probably won't go well. Unfortunately, it usually doesn't go well when people try this. You're not going to appeal to anyone because you've basically not created a brand to cater or appeal to any specific target customer. It's just going to be vague and general and not be resonating with anyone at all. So what we want to do is we want to hone in on specific target audience groups. We want to understand and identify what groups of people would be most interested in buying our products, and then really delve in to understand as much as you can about that target audience. You want to really get to know them. Something that I know a lot of big businesses and marketing teams all around the world really take advantage of is something called buyer personas. And buyer personas are detailed profiles of an ideal customer that's in your target audience. It's like creating a character that mirrors the name, the lifestyle, the preferences, and even the challenges that your specific target audience may have as well. And why would you do this? Well, it's basically to get a much better understanding of who you're trying to sell to. So I would recommend exactly that. Go away and create maybe 1 to 3 personas, all within the different target segment groups that you're trying to get a hold of and appeal to with your products. And for each persona, I want you to sit down and think about their demographics, so name, age, gender, race, hometown even. Also their hobbies, their values, their passions, their shopping behaviors. What do they prefer to do online? And then what are their needs? What are their pain points and their challenges? And I know what you're thinking, ooh, that sounds like a lot of work. You don't need to go absolutely crazy when it comes to these personas. You can keep it quite simple and quite basic. Jot down some bullet points for each one. Again, the idea really is just that this kind of gets the cogs turning for you a little bit so that you start thinking about, who am I actually trying to sell this product to? So let's for today imagine that we are going to set up a bumper sticker store, and we're going to try and sell some funny bumper stickers on Etsy. And so I've created a persona, and this is my first persona, or the one persona that I'm going to create. It's a college commuter. His name's Tyler Smith. He's 22, lives in Florida, college student. He loves social media, comedy shows, hanging out with friends and sustainability. And he wants his car to reflect his fun and laid-back personality. And how does he shop? Well, online, TikTok, on his mobile or cell phone. As you can see here, I've just jotted down a couple of bullet points, right? This could literally take 5 to 10 minutes to do and can give you a little bit of an idea of who you're actually trying to target, who you're actually trying to sell to. Now, to make things even easier for you, again, you can just do this in a notepad. I'm going to swing over here into the Etsy branding workbook. There is a target customers section where there's a learning section where you can learn more about buyer personas, for example. And then if you scroll down, we have a take action section, which is your dedicated workspace to brainstorm and come up with different ideas. And there's actually a persona creation tool in here. So what you can do is you can click add a new persona, and that will open up a template that you can then fill out with all of these different information pieces. So as you can see, we already have Tyler in here. So if I click on Tyler and scroll down a bit, you can see his demographics, his interest and lifestyle choices, shopping preferences, needs and pain points, value and beliefs, and a whole lot more. Again, this is all built into this branding workbook so that you don't need to do all this from scratch. You could literally open this up, plug in your information, and that's then there for you to analyze in the future. Next, listen, having a great product in your shop that is in demand is a good thing, but if that's the exact same as a bunch of others on Etsy already being sold, you're probably going to struggle. And if you're new to Etsy, there'll already probably be sellers out there that have sales, have traction, have reviews. People are going to swing more towards them because they'll likely trust them more. They already have a more established brand. And by just being the same as everyone else, you're not really giving potential customers a reason to come and shop in your shop. So that's why we need to get a really good understanding of what the competitive landscape already looks like on Etsy. So you need to head over to Etsy and start doing some research. We're talking about bumper stickers, right? Okay, I might go onto Etsy and start doing research around who else sells funny bumper stickers. And I'm going to pay attention specifically to what they sell. I don't need to list every single item, but just get a general gist. Product prices, their strengths, their weaknesses, what makes that competitor unique, and what's going to set me apart from that specific competitor. If we head over to the Etsy branding workbook, there is a competitor section, of course, with some learning materials, but then down here in the Take Action section, we have a table that we can use to sort and arrange and compile all of our different competitors and information around them. So I've put it in as an example here. We've got Sally's bumper stickers. What products do they offer? Funny bumper stickers, hiking stickers, product range $10 to $15. Got an average rating there. Strengths, they have a really comprehensive product range and a fair price point. Weaknesses, I don't really like their design quality, and the quality of the stickers isn't very good either. But what makes them unique? Well, they have a very wide selection of stickers, I'll give them that. But what could set me apart? What could I potentially do better? Well, my stickers could be higher quality. And maybe I also want to give people the option to personalize their stickers as well. So again, go onto Etsy, do a little bit of research, see what you can find, analyze those competitors, and then compile them into a list. Whether you're using the branding workbook or you're just using a notepad, either way, just make some notes, get a good idea of what they're doing and what you could do better. So we've got a good idea of how we want to position ourselves in the Etsy marketplace. Next thing, we are going to look at our core identity. So understanding who we are as a brand. And what I like to compare this to is, imagine that you were on the show Shark Tank. If you don't know this, it's very similar to Dragon's Den. It's essentially where you as an entrepreneur go and pitch in front of a number of different investors. And you're usually given 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning of these sessions to pitch your business idea. This is basically what your core identity should represent. So whatever you would be pitching in this pitch on Shark Tank is what needs to be included in your core identity. So what does this include? We are going to look at understanding our mission and our values. We're going to have a look at understanding what our unique selling proposition is, or our USP for short. We are then finally going to create a brand name. And then we're also going to craft a really great brand story around that brand. And we're going to start with our mission. Our mission is essentially the guiding star of your Etsy brand. It's just a simple statement that underpins absolutely everything that you're doing in your Etsy shop. What I like to say is that if you were to ever forget why you're actually running your Etsy shop, you could always go back to your mission statement to remind yourself of why. And you might be thinking, this seems like a bit overkill. Why do I need a mission in order to create a brand? Well, your mission is the source of everything else that ultimately will help create your brand down the road. So how do you create a mission? Well, first things first, keep it simple. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't go crazy on this. But do have a think about what products you're offering, your audience, what problem you're trying to solve for them, and what impact you're going to ultimately have on that audience with your products. And then go away and brainstorm some ideas of simple statements that summarize exactly that. Let's have a look at a couple of examples. Patagonia, the clothing brand. Their mission statement is, we're in business to save our home planet. Simple, right? To the point. Lululemon, to elevate the world from mediocrity to greatness. Simple, to the point, and crisp. That is exactly what you're looking for your mission statement as well. So I've created a little one for our bumper sticker company that is crafting witty bumper stickers to empower young drivers to express their uniqueness on the road. Do you see where I'm going here? So take a step back, go sit down with a pen and paper and brainstorm some different ideas. What is your mission? Why are you doing this? And very much related to this, we also want to talk about our values. These are essentially the heart and soul of your Etsy shop. These are the principles that guide and influence all of the decisions that you make for your brand. And believe it or not, you probably already have personal values. Me, for example, my values are honesty, dependability, family, and fun. So have a think about what your personal values are and what you ultimately want the values of your Etsy shop to be. A lot of them will probably be the same. Let's look at some examples again. Patagonia. Their values are quality, integrity, environment, and justice. Lululemon, family, excellence, individuality, and passion. These underpin everything that they do on a day-to-day basis, and also underpin everything that they do in terms of their branding. You want to do the same thing. And as you can see, these are just basic words. You don't need to go crazy here and come up with anything super complex. The branding workbook does also have a lot more information around values. So we have a lot of learning that we can go through here, but then also a help guide. So if you need a little bit of inspiration around what values might represent you and your brand, you can head over here and use this as a little bit of inspiration for you. So for example, for our bumper sticker brand, this is what I've selected. I've got joy, creativity, and quality, because those are the different values or elements that I believe are most important for the success of this brand. Remember earlier when we spoke about our competitors and our target audience? Keep that in mind for this section. There are loads of other sellers out there. So what are you going to do to make sure that your products are standing out and offering something really unique to buyers on Etsy? Finding and highlighting that special something is what's often known as a unique selling proposition, or USP for short in the business world. Again, I see way too many shops on Etsy just literally copying and pasting what other successful shops are doing, assuming that that's just going to work for them as well. But that's not how it works. You're not providing any additional value to the customer. So why would they buy from you? You need a USP in order to make that happen. Okay, but how can we be different? Well, there's different ways we can do that. But a couple of examples are we could focus on higher quality products, offering personalization options on Etsy. That's very, very popular on Etsy. Offering a more competitive price point, if that's something you're in the market for. Eco-friendliness or sustainability, or offering a unique service experience to the client or the customer. So for example, for our bumper sticker brand, our USP could simply be we're going to use durable, eco-friendly materials for our stickers, and we're going to give customers the opportunity to personalize their bumper stickers as well. Remember when we looked at our competitors earlier? These were two things that they did not offer. So this is our USP. This is what's going to make us shine. Now comes the fun part. Naming our brand. What should our brand be called? Maybe you already have a fantastic name. Maybe you're stuck on that. That's absolutely fine. There's no right or wrong when it comes to naming your Etsy brand. But there are certain guidelines for you to keep in mind. In my opinion, what makes a great brand name are firstly uniqueness. It needs to be unique and different. It needs to be meaningful and potentially even relevant to what you're actually trying to sell to customers. You want it to be simple, and you need it to be future-proof. You need it to be something that is still going to be relevant in a few years' time from now. So how can we go about finding a really great brand name? Well, there's no exact science to it. What I would recommend is that you sit down with a pen and paper and you brainstorm some ideas. Think about your niche. Think about what different keywords are used within that niche. Jot them down and see what different words, names, or word combinations you can come up with. Something else you can do, I do this a lot, is actually use ChatGPT to help you out with this. In the branding workbook, I have a bunch of different ChatGPT prompts available for you to use. And one of them is actually specifically for brand naming. So if I scroll down, There's these yellow text boxes here. If I click on this, it'll open up a ChatGPT prompt that you can fill out and then provide to ChatGPT to provide you with some ideas for you to start working off of. So let's do that. Let's head over to ChatGPT. And I've actually already, just to save us all a bit of time, I've already filled out that simple prompt with my information around our bumper sticker shop. So I am going to hit enter and see what ChatGPT gives back to us. And again, this is not supposed to just be the be all and end all. What you can do is this is a starting point for you. You can take a look at these names and use them as a little bit of inspiration for you going forward. So let's have a look at these. What have they given us? They've given us Joke Lane, Giggle Miles, Smiles Per Mile, Witty Wheels, Snicker Stickers. They're okay. I don't know. I'm not really a massive fan of any one of them individually. What you could, of course, do is now ask ChatGPT to provide you 10 more or 20 more. You could also provide them with some ideas of preferences that you have in addition to this. But I'm actually going to take this list and use it as inspiration, right? So how about we call our brand Giggle Gears? That kind of made me giggle as well. So let's call our brand Giggle Gears. I kind of like that. That's kind of got a bit of a funny sound to it. It's relevant and appropriate to what we're doing and selling. So that's our brand name, Giggle Gears. I like it. And finally, we need to bring all of this to life and combine it into a really impactful brand story. This is the story of you and your brand. Why do you exist? What are you trying to achieve? Who are you trying to solve problems for? All of this needs to be concisely wrapped up into a lovely story that you can then later use for other things, such as your About Me page, your announcements section, other parts of your Etsy brand that we'll talk about later on. So how can we do this? Again, you could sit down and literally just try to write out a little bit of a summary of what we've discussed so far. So our mission, our values, our name, of course, and our USP. Now you can, of course, do all of this by scratch, as I just said, or you could take the lazier alternative option again, and that is to take advantage of ChatGPT, at least to give you a little bit of a fundamental baseline for you to start working off of. So I've already got a prompt ready for this. This is, again, a prompt that's in the branding workbook. Again, to save time, I filled it out for us already. So I'll paste this in here. I'm also going to add up here that my brand is called Giggle Gears, just so that they can try and incorporate that into our brand story as well, hopefully. Let's see what they come back with. So it's going to come back probably with quite a lot of text and quite a lot of detail, and it's likely going to be quite generic or general, depending on how much context or detail you've provided to ChatGPT at this point already. But as you can see here, it's working away, it's writing our story for us. And again, I'm not telling you to now go and just copy and paste this to wherever you may want to use it. This is a starting point. This is a fundamental baseline that you can now start crafting your brand story off of. So, little tip there to get you going with your brand story. Right, so we've positioned our brand. We understand what our brand identity is now. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff, and that is to do our visual branding. Understanding what our brand is actually going to look like on the outside. But it's not only a logo we need to look at. There's other things as well. We need to look at what colors we're going to use, what fonts or typography we're going to use. Of course, we need a logo, we need a shop banner, and we need to make sure that our photography is to absolutely top-notch quality on Etsy. And we've got colors first. I really enjoy playing around with colors when it comes to branding. That's just me personally, because there's just so much you can do with them. Now you may be thinking, oh, I'll just pick some random colors, or I'll pick my favorite color, and that's going to be my brand color. Yes, you could do that, but I do want to let you know that there is a little bit more to colors. In fact, there's actually a lot of psychology involved around colors and the emotions that portrays or emits. I've got an example here. Got the different colors on the left-hand side, different brands that are using these colors, and the different emotions that these may convey. So a yellow brand conveys optimism, clarity, and warmth. A red one may be excitement, youthful, and bold. A green one is peaceful, growth, and health. And then we have like a balanced, calm white one, which is our apples and our Nikes and our Pumas. I'm not saying you need to follow this to an exact T. Feel free to play around with your colors, but just keep in mind what we discussed earlier around our brand identity and how you want your brand to be perceived by those people that you're trying to sell to, your target audience. Something else to keep in mind is how many colors you actually need. I would suggest between 1 to 3 brand colors. And I'd break those down into your primary color, which is the one that you typically use for most of your backgrounds or kind of the big text that you use. It's your main brand color. There's a secondary color, which usually complements that initial color and can be used, to balance out that color in different text and images. And then you could also have what's known as an accent color, which is an additional color, usually I think quite bright and bold, that can be used to highlight different pieces of text or a button, for example. So to bring this to light a little bit, in this presentation, these are the 3 colors that we're using. There's this bright blue, that's my primary color. I'm using this cream as a secondary. And then I've got this bold pink color to kind of highlight different pieces of text and information. So how can you go about finding your brand colors? Well, like with anything else we've discussed today, you can just go away and do a bit of research and brainstorm and have a look around, see what you find. I personally have found this tool to be extremely helpful. It's an online free website called Coolers, and this gives you the opportunity to click here on Explore Trending Palettes. And this now opens up trending color palettes. You can also refine the search by typing in specific keywords that you might be after. So for our fun bumper sticker brand, I'm looking for some fun colors. So let's type in fun. See what it comes up with. Right, so we've got all of these different color palettes here. And this means that any colors within a palette typically balance each other out. They complement each other. So which colors am I going to use? I actually quite like this kind of turquoisey green color up here. Kind of like that. So I think that's going to be our primary color for Giggle Gears. If you click on it, it will automatically copy the hex code for you, which you're going to need later on as well. And I'm actually going to store this hex code in my branding workbook under brand colors. If I scroll down, I've got a color palette tool down here. So I can click on new and I can say green primary color, for example, give it a title. And then I'm going to add the hex code in this table here. And then I'm going to select that this is my primary color. I could also add a screenshot or an image of this color so that it appears in my color palette as well. To save time, I'll leave that for now. And then I'm also going to choose another one from this palette. And I think I'm just going to keep it simple. And I like this white color here. So I'm going to copy that, create another new color, say white secondary, and then add the hex code there. And then say that this is our secondary color. We're going to leave the accent color for now because I don't think we're really going to use it for today's example, but you could of course explore other colors as well. Next to colors, another element that you definitely should not neglect or just ignore is having fantastic typography that aligns with your brand identity. Typography is just a fancy way of saying fonts, basically. But you want it to align with your brand identity and you want it to resonate with your target audience. Like with everything we're doing here, we want it to align with who we're trying to sell this product to. So as an example, let's take a look at these 2 logos here. and pay in particular attention to the fonts I've used for our bumper sticker shop. Which of these do you think would resonate more with our target audience of young college students looking for fun bumper stickers? Probably the right one, right? It's more fun of a font, it's a bit out there, it's a bit creative, whereas the left one is a bit more elegant, it's a bit more modest as well, and may not resonate or speak to that customer group as much as that right one would. So it's super important for you to take this into account when you think about what font you want to use in your specific Etsy branding. And there's different types of fonts or so-called typefaces that you could take advantage of. And similar like with the colors and the different colors, how they have emotional impact, fonts can have that as well. So we have, for example, serif fonts, which are known to be a little bit more traditional or sophisticated. We have sans serif fonts that are very good in kind of a digital setting, and they're perfect for, quite simple and clear brands. We have display fonts, which are usually kind of big and bold, like the one we just looked at. We've got script fonts, which are usually a bit more upscale and elegant. And then we've got handwritten fonts, which usually portray, friendliness or a personal touch. This is all in the branding guide as well. I would definitely recommend that you have a think about what emotion you want to evoke with your Etsy brand, and think about how you can portray that through the typefaces that you choose for your brand. And here we are, folks, the brand logo. Finally, right? We've done so much work already, and now we get to the brand logo. Why only now? Well, all of this information that we've gathered and collected and thought about up until now is all stuff that we need to keep in mind whilst we're designing our logo. It's the face of your brand. And you want it to be clear, distinctive, and incorporate your entire brand identity so that it speaks to your target audience. Let's have a look at creating a quick logo for our bumper sticker store together. And we're going to use Canva for this, an absolutely amazing tool that you can use to create all sorts of designs. It's fairly easy to use and is really worth it. They do have a free plan. There is also, however, a paid plan, a premium plan, which gives you a lot more flexibility and availability of different templates for you to use. So I definitely, if you haven't already, recommend that you go and explore Canva. Let's create a logo. So we're going to create a new design, and we're going to make it a custom size, and we're going to do 500 by 500 pixels. That is the recommended size for a Etsy shop logo. It's essentially a square, 500 by 500. Now, instead of starting this from scratch, I am again going to take the lazier option, and I'm going to have a look for inspiration through Canva. And if I go up here on design, and in these search templates, typically I'll just simply type in fun logo. It'll then give me different logo design ideas for us to use or to get inspiration from. So a fun logo is what I'm after, because that resonates with my brand and my brand identity. So let's have a look through. And I like this one actually. Obviously we're not starting a taco company, but I like the design of this logo. It's playful, it's humorous, it's funny, it's creative, it's bold. That's kind of what I'm after for my brand. So we're going to take this one as inspiration. And I actually like this font as well, this kind of display font. So we're going to keep this font, and we're going to simply change the name. This is too big. Let's make this a bit smaller. Like so. I'm going to center it up here. I actually also don't really like this shape in the back. It doesn't really speak to my brand very much, but I do like the idea of having like an abstract-y kind of shape. So let's have a look at abstract rectangles like this. And something like this. I kind of like that. I think that's kind of cool. Kind of wavy, a bit out there. So let's use this, and I want this Let's think about our colors now, right? Remember we saved our colors in our branding workbook. I now want to incorporate them into this logo. So I want this background to be that green color that we chose, our primary color. So if I go back to our branding workbook, we've got our green primary color here. If I click on this and then just click on the little copy button, that will then copy that hex code. I'll go back, click on color, new color, and then I'm just going to paste it. And there you go. There's our new brand color, our primary color. I love it. Okay. I also want this black box to be the white color that we chose as our secondary color. So we're also going to copy this and we are going to change the color of this. Let's do that. There we go. And I know this is actually in front of our other text. There we go. And I want this text color to also be that green, like that. See, I kind of like that. I think that's kind of cool. Maybe I'll make the line spacing a little bit narrower, like so. Make the text a bit bigger. There we go, folks. I've done that in about 5 minutes. I could probably put a little bit more work into it, but you can see how easy this can actually be. You can use different designs in Canva, different templates as inspiration to then allow you to experiment with different logo ideas that are aligned to your brand identity and who you're trying to serve through Etsy. And something else to call out is that in the branding workbook, there's also a logo checklist that you can go through to make sure that your logo is ready to go, that you can go through in your own time. So feel free to check that out in the branding workbook. We've got our Etsy logo. Now we need our shop banner. If you don't know what this is, it's, as the name suggests, it's a banner that lives at the top of your Etsy shop. And it's really prominent. So you do want to pay attention to this banner and how you take advantage of this digital real estate in your Etsy shop. I can show you a couple of examples here that I've literally just nicked off of Canva. There's lots of opportunity here for you to create a banner that really aligns with your brand and also markets what you're trying to sell. So a couple of things that you want this banner to achieve. You want it to have visual appeal. You want it to look nice. You definitely want it to be consistent with everything else that you're creating. So you want it to use the same colors, the same logo type, the same brand fonts. You want to keep it simple again. And you want to keep it up to date. If you want to include something like a discount code or a sale information or information about a new brand line in your Etsy banner, you need to make sure you're keeping it up to date. Let's now head back over to Canva to now create a shop banner that goes alongside our Giggle Gears logo. And if you want to create a big banner in Etsy, the dimensions are 3360 and a height of 840. These dimensions are of course listed alongside other guidelines in the branding workbook as well. Here we have it, we have our brand new canvas. And I'm actually just gonna keep it fairly simple for this example. And I'm just going to, let's take our logo and I'm just gonna copy everything and paste it in here. This way I'm bringing over the typeface or the font and also the colors into this file as well. I'm going to change the background to that green again. I like that. And I think I'm just going to keep it that way. So we're going to keep it quite simple. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm literally just going to have this Giggle Gears appear at the top, but I'm going to remove that white background like so. Like that. And then I'm actually just going to add like a little something underneath it to help explain what this actually is. So bringing smiles to faces on the road. Kind of like that. It's kind of fun. So we're going to take that. Again, think about fonts here, and we need our fonts to complement each other. I think these actually complement each other quite nicely though. We have a display font with somewhat of a serif font down here, but I also want this to be Actually, no. Do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add like a rectangle or like an abstract strip. Let's do that and see what we can find here. So if I take this and then make this white color as well, like so, maybe list it underneath and then make this text green like that. There we go. Got a banner. Of course, we could go a step further here and we could also add other elements to this banner. I've kept it fairly simple for now. You could, for example, provide photos of some of your best sellers on either side of this. You could, of course, replace our little tagline that we've added here with a discount code or information around a new product line that you've launched, for example. Like with the logo, have a play around with this. Have a look at different design templates in Canva. There's a lot of them. And see what you can come up with. And last but definitely not least, when it comes to our visual branding, we need to talk about photography, folks. It is so important to nail down your photography on Etsy. Think about it. Your customers are browsing through hundreds of different listings, all of them potentially quite similar. They're seeing a lot of different photos. You need to have something in your listing photos that makes that customer stop and look at your product and think, that's the one I want to take a look at. I'm interested in this product. So what are you going to do? You're going to have absolutely amazing photography that is aligned with your brand identity. A couple of things you need to keep in mind for this. Make sure everything's consistent. If you're writing something on the photos or if you're including colors, use your brand colors and your brand fonts. Make sure the photos are really high quality. Use really good lighting on all your photos and provide different angles of your products. And also provide additional information to the potential buyer through your photos as well. So include information cards that are really well cohesively branded to help them with the buying process. I actually have another video where I talk about listing photos in a lot more detail. I'll add a link to that in the description below. If you're a handmade seller, definitely follow these guidelines and make sure that all of your photos are, ticking these boxes. If you're doing print on demand, you might not have physical versions of all of your products, which is absolutely fine. The good news is that you can create really realistic and high quality mock-ups of all of your designs. Word of warning on that though, for any print on demand sellers, always make sure that your mock-ups accurately represent what your product actually looks like. So making sure that the product, the design is the right size, dimensions, the right positioning on the product, and also making sure that you're actually using mock-ups of the correct product to the T. So for example, if you're selling Gildan 18,000 sweatshirts with your designs on them, you need to use mock-ups of Gildan 18,000 sweatshirts, not some generic sweatshirt you found online. Otherwise, you're deceiving customers. So we've created our visual brand. We've got a logo, we've got colors, we've got a font, we've got great photos. That's all we need, right? No, we also need to get our verbal branding nailed down. And what does this include? Well, we need to understand and define what our brand voice is. And then on top of that, we then can start fleshing out different areas of our Etsy shop that need this verbal branding attention. So we've got our About Me section. We've got our announcement section. We've got product descriptions. And of course, all of the customer communications that we have. We've got our brand voice. This is all about what you want to say to your audience and how you want it to sound to them. Now, to be able to define what your brand voice is, you need to look back at what we did at the beginning of this session. You need to look at your brand positioning and, very importantly, your core identity. What does your brand stand for? And then create a brand voice that resonates around that target audience group that you're trying to get in touch with over Etsy. So for example, we've got our bumper sticker brand, right? And we are targeting young adults. Which one of these two statements do you think would resonate more with that target group? Probably the left one, right? The right one sounds a little bit too posh, I think. It's a little bit too comprehensive, it's a bit monotone, it's a bit more elegant in nature. This probably won't speak to our target audience as much as the voice or the messaging that we're using on the left-hand statement over here. So this is why you can see why it's so important that you are making sure to align all of your voice and messaging across Etsy and everything that you're writing. And on that note, consistency is absolutely key. If you write something in one way in one place, you need to make sure to consistently carry over that brand voice in everything else you're doing and writing and saying out there. So whether that's your About Me section, your announcement section, your product descriptions, the messages that you send back and forth with customers, even your social media posts, all of it needs to be in one consistent tone of voice. Let's talk about our About Me section. If you don't know what this is basically a little dedicated space within your Etsy shop that you can use to showcase yourself. Tell the world about yourself and your Etsy shop. It's essentially taking our brand story from earlier, combining it with our brand voice, and telling a story to the customers. So what do we want to include? We want to incorporate our brand story and our voice. We also maybe want to think about incorporating some keywords in there as well, as Etsy does take About Me sections into account when it comes to SEO. Also, have a think about trying to build a personal connection with the customers as well. Etsy is all about small business and individual sellers, and a lot of the times customers actually come to Etsy to purchase specifically from those sellers. So celebrate that. Show people that you're part of that community and add this personal touch. And then also invite engagement. Offer them the opportunity to reach out to you with any questions. Show that you're personable and that you're human. So we've got an example here that I've created for our bumper sticker shop. I'm not going to read this out to you. You can gladly pause the video and read it yourself. But this is just an example of what an About Me section could look like. Now, in addition to this, the About Me section also gives you the opportunity to add photos and an About Me video. Use those as an opportunity to portray yourself, to introduce yourself to potential customers. Include photos of yourself, photos of you designing your products or creating your products or you using a specific product in action. And then create a little video where maybe you introduce yourself and speak about why you're selling these products. Again, you're adding to this personal touch and creating this more holistic brand around what you're trying to sell. And then we've got an announcement section. This is a little, as the name suggests, announcements piece that sits just underneath the banner in your Etsy shop. And a lot of people use this to, welcome the user to your shop, provide any kind of shop updates, information about any sales that might be on in your shop, information about your policies. So for example, if you have a no returns policy, and again, an invitation to engage with you. So if they have any questions, they should reach out. I wouldn't go crazy on this. Keep it nice and short. Customers aren't really in the market to read through an essay as soon as they hit your shop page. So keep it nice and short and concise. I've created one here. I've kept it pretty basic, but have a think about what information you want to include in there. Don't leave it blank. Have some information in there. It's valuable real estate for you to use to help try to market your brand. And then we've got product descriptions. This is oftentimes the first thing that customers actually see of your brand. See, they'll be looking for a specific product, they'll click on one of your listings, and then they'll see your photos, but they'll also read through the description of that photo, of that listing as well. And so you need to make sure that those product descriptions are consistent with the rest of the brand that you developed around your Etsy shop. And what do you want these to include? Well, You want it to have a little bit of a brief overview of what the product actually is that you're selling. Try to include some keywords in there as well. Key product details around the product, instructions on how they can order that product the easiest way. You want to make this buying process as seamless, as easy as possible for the customer. So giving them as much information as possible up front can really do wonders. Information about any policies that you want to point out to them. Invite questions, and then also add a call to action. What I personally like to do is I actually like to include a link to my Etsy shop down in the description and add a little tagline above it or call to action that says something like, to check out more designs like this, head over to my shop. And a lot of the times this will actually entice them to come and view the rest of your shop and explore the rest of your brand. And then last but definitely not least, we have our customer communications. We've been talking about our verbal branding and how we want to keep this consistent. The same goes for how we communicate with our customers. You want it to be that when you're speaking with a customer or they reach out to you, they know that they're speaking to you, a human being that sits behind this specific brand. You want that brand and everything else they're seeing around that brand on Etsy to also shine through in the messages that you're sending them. So I'd recommend that whenever you're looking to write a message to a customer, that you try to apply your brand voice to that message. Something you can also do is actually create templates of messages that you can use. That's something you can actually do within Etsy itself. Let me know in the comments down below if that's something you'd like to learn more about on how to do more effectively. Folks, I really hope you found that useful. I know this was long and drawn out, but we went into quite a lot of detail today around what I believe is really fundamentals around what should go into a fantastic Etsy brand. I hope you found this useful. As I mentioned throughout this course as well, if you would like to dive into this in more detail and would like a bit more support with this, then I would definitely recommend that you take a look at the Etsy Branding Workbook. As you can see here, and as we've seen throughout this session as well, there's loads of different sections in here with lots of different learnings that you can go through step by step in your own time to help start to build your own Etsy brand. But with that, I hope you found this video useful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.